most of what evolution makes is reasonable. A wolf is fast enough to catch a deer. A spider's web is strong enough to hold a fly. A bird's wing generates exactly as much lift as the bird needs to fly. Across most of nature, biology builds creatures that are well adapted, but not overbuilt. There is no advantage to being 3 times stronger than you need to be. Strength costs energy. Energy costs survival. So most animals end up at a balance point, strong enough to do their job, no stronger. And then, every once in a while, evolution produces something that breaks the rule. Tonight we are going to visit 4 animals. 3 of them you could hold in one hand. The 4th weighs as much as a small car. They live in different oceans, on different continents, in different layers of the planet. They have nothing in common except this. When biologists tried to measure what these animals can do, they had to throw out the equipment first. Standard force meters could not handle them. Standard cameras could not see them. Standard models of how muscles and bones and tendons are supposed to work did not predict that any of this should be possible. We will start with the one that hits hardest, then the one that hits loudest, then the one in the sky, and then the one that, according to the data, is the most likely of all of them to actually kill a human being. Most of what evolution makes is reasonable. These 4 are not. Chapter 1. The Punch That Bends Physics. In 2004, a biologist at the University of California, Berkeley, named Sheila Patek, was trying to film a 4-inch-long crustacean called the peacock mantis shrimp. She wanted to measure how fast its arm moved when it struck prey. She could not. The arm moved too fast for her cameras. According to her own account, published as research in the journal Nature in April 2004, the cameras in her lab were rated for several thousand frames per second. The mantis shrimp strike was over before a single frame captured it. The BBC, which was filming a documentary in her lab at the time, lent her a high-speed camera capable of 100,000 frames per second. With that camera, Patek finally captured the strike. When she slowed it down, the numbers were so far from what biologists had assumed that her first response was to check her math. The peacock mantis shrimp's club-like front limb travels at speeds of roughly 50 miles per hour. It accelerates at over 10,000 times the force of gravity. According to research published by Patek's lab, now based at Duke University and recorded in Science magazine's coverage of mantis shrimp biomechanics, the acceleration of the strike is comparable to a .22 caliber bullet fired from a rifle. The shrimp is 4 inches long. But that is not the strangest part. The strangest part is what happens in the water during the strike. When something moves through water that fast, the water cannot get out of the way. The pressure on the leading edge of the limb drops so low, so fast that the water itself vaporizes. A bubble forms, a bubble of water vapor inside the water. This phenomenon is called cavitation. It is the same effect that erodes ship propellers and damages submarine hulls. The cavitation bubble, as it collapses, releases a second strike. According to research from the Patek lab, the mantis shrimp does not hit its prey once. It hits 4 times. The limb hits. The cavitation bubble collapses, the other limb hits. That bubble collapses. 4 force peaks in less than 800 microseconds, less than 1,000th of a second. The total force, measured by force sensors built into the lab tanks, exceeds 1,500 newtons. That is over 2,500 times the shrimp's own body weight. A peacock mantis shrimp, when it strikes, generates a force equivalent to a tiger's bite from a body smaller than a banana. Aquarium owners have learned this the hard way. The peacock mantis shrimp is one of the few aquarium animals known to crack the glass of its own tank. Not over time. In a single strike, there is documented footage from home aquariums showing mantis shrimps shattering quarter-inch glass walls. They are routinely banned from public reef aquariums because of this exact behavior. In 2021, a team of engineers and biologists from Harvard School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, working with Patek as a co-author, published a paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences describing how they had built a robotic version of the mantis shrimp striking mechanism. The robot, weighing 1.5 grams, was the fastest mechanical device of its scale ever constructed. It still could not match the animal. Chapter 2. The shrimp that fires a gun about 60 miles off the coast of Florida. Deep in coral reef ecosystems across the Caribbean, there is an animal that the U.S. Navy has spent decades trying to silence. It is a relative of the mantis shrimp. It is smaller, usually only about 4 centimeters long, 15 grams in weight. It hides in burrows and crevices. It is, by appearance, completely unremarkable. You could walk past one in a tide pool and not see it. This animal is called the pistol shrimp, or the snapping shrimp. Its scientific name is Alpheus, and there are several hundred species of it across the world's warm oceans. What it does, mechanically, is so strange that a physics course at Stanford University includes it as a case study. The pistol shrimp has one normal-sized claw and one enormous one. The enormous claw is shaped like a gun. There is a hammer and a socket. When the shrimp wants to attack or to hunt, or to defend its burrow, it cocks the hammer back into a latched position. Tension builds. Then it releases. The hammer slams into the socket so fast that the water, between them cannot escape. What happens next is, by the measurements of marine biologists at Stanford and at the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, one of the most violent events that an animal body is known to produce. The closing claw fires a jet of water at roughly 97 kilometers per hour, about 60 miles per hour. That jet of water creates a cavitation bubble exactly the same way the mantis shrimp does. But when the pistol shrimp's bubble collapses, it generates something the mantis shrimp does not. It generates a sonic blast of 218 decibels. To put that in perspective, a bullet fired from a rifle is about 165 decibels. The space shuttle launch was about 180. The threshold at which a sound becomes physically lethal to a human is around 200. The pistol shrimp's snap exceeds the launch of a rocket fired from an animal smaller than your thumb. The collapsing bubble also produces, for a fraction of a microsecond, a temperature inside the bubble of approximately 4,800 degrees Celsius. The surface of the sun is around 5,500 degrees Celsius. According to research published in the journal Nature in 2000 by physicist Detlef Loos and his collaborators, the collapsing bubble actually emits a brief flash of light, a phenomenon called sonoluminescence. The shrimp's claw, in effect, generates a momentary spark of plasma in the water. The biological function of all of this is mundane. The pistol shrimp uses the sonic blast to stun or kill small fish and crustaceans nearby. It does not need to touch its prey. The shockwave does it. But the impact on naval engineering has not been mundane at all. Pistol shrimp colonies, when they live in numbers near sonar installations, produce so much noise that they interfere with submarine detection. During the Second World War, U.S. Navy submarines patrolling the Pacific used pistol shrimp colonies as acoustic cover. The constant snapping concealed their movements from enemy sonar. The Navy has in declassified documents referenced the species in operational discussions of underwater acoustics for over 80 years. A 4-centimeter shrimp has been, for the better part of a century, a recurring problem for the most advanced sonar systems on this planet. Chapter 3. The bird with talons like a bear. We leave the water, we go to the sky. In the rainforests of Central and South America, from southern Mexico down to northern Argentina, there is a bird that almost nobody sees. It is the harpy eagle, Harpia harpyia. It is one of the largest eagles in the world. Adult females weigh between 13 and 20 pounds. Wingspan reaches around 6.5 feet, roughly 2 meters. Those are not extraordinary numbers for an eagle. The Steller's sea eagle of Siberia is heavier. The wedge-tailed eagle of Australia has a longer wingspan. By raw size, the harpy is not the biggest. What sets the harpy eagle apart is something else. It is the talons. The talons of a fully grown female harpy eagle are roughly 5 inches long, the same length as the claws of a grizzly bear. That comparison gets made a lot in nature documentaries, and it is true. What documentaries do not usually mention is that the harpy's grip is, by any reasonable measure, considerably more dangerous than the grizzly's. A grizzly bear's claws are tools, primarily, for digging, climbing, and tearing. The bear's killing force comes from its bite and its mass. The harpy eagle's talons are weapons. According to research summarized by the San Diego Zoo and confirmed in the Harpy Eagle entry of standard ornithological references, the gripping force of the talons exceeds 400 pounds per square inch at the point of contact. That is roughly 4 times the gripping force of a human hand. And because the force is concentrated at the tip of a 5-inch curved talon, the pressure delivered per square millimeter of target is many times higher than a bear's claw could produce. A harpy eagle's rear talon, the largest of the 4, can puncture a human bone in a single grip. What the harpy hunts is frankly almost difficult to believe. According to the species account in the Wikipedia entry on the harpy eagle, which is drawn directly from peer-reviewed wildlife research, adult female harpy eagles regularly take live adult monkeys, howler monkeys, and spider monkeys, weighing between 13 and 20 pounds, directly out of the canopy. They do not land, they do not drag the prey. They grip the monkey in midair with their talons, and they fly away with it, from a tree branch straight into the air, holding a struggling animal that weighs as much as they do. To do this requires not just talon strength, but a kind of structural engineering that biologists are still studying. The eagle's hallux, the rear toe, locks into a position that maintains grip without continuous muscle effort. This is what allows the bird to fly long distances carrying prey that would otherwise exhaust it. The leg muscles do the initial squeeze. The bone and tendon architecture holds the kill. There is finally one fossil detail about the harpy eagles family that is worth ending on. In 1924, a skull was discovered in a limestone deposit in South Africa near a place called Taung. The skull belonged to a young child, a 3-year-old member of the early human ancestor Australopithecus africanus, who lived around 2.5 million years ago. For decades, paleontologists assumed the child had been killed by a leopard or a large cat. But in 2006, in a reanalysis published in the American Journal of Physical Anthropology, paleontologists Lee Berger and W.J. Clark identified puncture marks in the eye sockets of the skull that did not match a cat's tooth pattern. They matched the talon damage signature of a large eagle, a relative of the modern harpy eagle larger than any eagle alive today, may have taken a human ancestor out of a tree in Africa 2.5 million years ago. The lineage is still here. It is still hunting in the canopy. It still does every day what its ancestors were doing before our species existed. Chapter 4. The herbivore that bisects crocodiles. We come, finally, to the largest animal in this episode, and the one most likely to actually kill you. The common hippopotamus, Hippopotamus amphibius, lives in rivers and lakes across sub-Saharan Africa. An adult male can reach 16.5 feet in length, 5 feet at the shoulder, and weigh up to 9,905 tons. They are the third largest land mammal on Earth after elephants and the white rhinoceros. And here is the thing that, even today, in 2026, still routinely shocks people who have never looked it up. The hippopotamus is the deadliest large mammal in Africa. It is not the lion. The lion kills, on average, around 22 people a year on the entire continent. It is not the leopard. It is not the elephant. Though the elephant comes close, a 2022 study by Van Houten Trail, published in Frontiers in Conservation Science, found that elephants may actually be responsible for slightly more human deaths than hippos in some regions. But what makes the hippo more dangerous per encounter is the fatality rate. The same 2022 study found that 87% of hippo attacks on humans are fatal. 87%. When a hippopotamus attacks a person, the person almost never survives. To understand why, you have to look at the animal's mouth. The lower canine teeth of an adult male hippo can reach 20 inches in length. The incisors can reach 16 inches. These are not small chewing teeth, they are dagger-shaped, and they grow continuously through the hippo's life, sharpening themselves against the upper teeth every time the animal closes its jaws. The jaw opens to approximately 150 degrees, almost a straight line. From the lower tip of the canines to the upper tip of the back of the mouth, a fully gaping adult hippo's bite spans 4 to 5 feet wide. The bite force, measured directly in field studies and confirmed by biomechanical modeling, is between 800 and 2,000 pounds per square inch. By comparison, a lion's bite force is roughly 650 psi. A polar bear's is around 1/200. A great white shark in water generates roughly 4.0 psi, but a great white shark is 6 times the hippo's size and built specifically for killing. The hippo is a herbivore. It eats grass. It has no predatory reason to need a bite this strong. The reason it has one is not for hunting. It is for fighting other hippos. Males compete for territory, for water access, for mating rights. The fights are short and violent. They use those 4-foot canines like swords. A male hippo with a bite force capable of snapping a Nile crocodile in half. And there is documented footage from African game reserves of hippos doing exactly that. Needs that bite force because occasionally another hippo of equal size is trying to kill him. Humans in the hippo's worldview are not prey. They are intruders. The hippo does not eat its kills. The hippo simply removes them from the territory. In the lakes and rivers of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Zambia, Uganda, and Tanzania, the hippo accounts for several hundred human fatalities per year. Fishermen are the most common victims, checking nets. Approaching the riverbank at dusk, traveling in low boats, the attack is not always provoked. The hippo simply emerges. The boat is overturned. The fisherman, if he survives the bite, does not always survive the drowning. This is the herbivore that bisects crocodiles. Chapter 5. Why evolution builds this step back from the 4 animals. What do they share? The mantis shrimp strike is not for any practical reason. Most of its prey, small crabs, snails, the occasional fish, could be subdued with a much weaker blow. Sheila Patek's research on mantis shrimp biomechanics suggests that the extreme force of the strike is not optimized for killing food. It is optimized for interspecies combat, territorial fights with other mantis shrimps over burrows. The pistol shrimp's sonic blast is also primarily a weapon used against other pistol shrimps. They fight over territory in coral reefs the way humans fight over apartments in a crowded city. The harpy eagle's talons evolved for the simple reason that taking an adult monkey out of a tree in flight is one of the hardest physical tasks any predator on Earth attempts. The bird had to be overbuilt. Anything less and the monkey gets away. And the hippopotamus has a 100 psi bite because in the muddy, crowded rivers of Central Africa, where male hippos cannot escape each other and territorial disputes happen daily, a weaker bite means losing the fight. Losing the fight means losing the territory. Losing the territory means not reproducing. What ties these four animals together is not violence. It is escalation. In each of these species, the weapon is what biologists call an arms race, an evolutionary spiral where each generation produces slightly stronger individuals, because slightly stronger individuals outcompete their neighbors. Over hundreds of thousands of years, that competition compounds. The slow ones lose. The weak ones lose. And what is left after enough generations is an animal so overbuilt that scientists studying it have to redesign their measurement equipment. This is what evolution does when you let it run in a closed environment with constant competition for a long enough time. It builds things that look impossible. The animals in this episode are not aggressive in the way humans mean the word. They do not seek out fights. They do not hunt for pleasure. The mantis shrimp, the pistol shrimp, the harpy eagle, the hippopotamus, none of them is hostile to a human being on principle. They are, all four of them, simply animals that have been pushed by their environments into a corner of physics where the math gets strange. And the only reason any of this is shocking is that we are not used to thinking about what evolution can do when nobody is watching. It can build a 4-inch crustacean that hits like a sledgehammer. It can build a 4-centimeter shrimp that fires a sonic round at twice the volume of a rifle. It can build a bird with the gripping force to carry away an adult primate. It can build a herbivore so well armed that the apex predator of the same ecosystem, the Nile crocodile, sometimes does not survive the encounter. And it can do all of this without anyone designing it, without anyone watching, without anyone meaning for it to happen. This is what is in the rivers and the reefs and the canopies of this planet, right now, tonight, while we are talking about them. Most of what evolution makes is reasonable. These four are not. In the next episode, we are going to a place where almost nothing reasonable lives at all. A place where the pressure is so high that bones cannot form. A place where the only light comes from the animals themselves, down to the deep ocean. If you want to see what is down there, you will have to come back. Until then, remember that nature is almost always doing more than it looks like.